The Sea Farmer. By Jack London. That will be the doctor's launch, said Captain MacElrath. The pilot grunted, while the skipper swept on with his glass from the launch to the strip of beach and to Kingston beyond, and then slowly across the entrance to Howth Head on the northern side. The tide's right, and we'll have you docked in 2 hours, the pilot vouchsafed, with an effort at cheeriness. Rings and basin, is it? This time the skipper grunted. A dirty Dublin day. Again the skipper grunted. He was weary with the night of wind in the Irish Channel behind him, the unbroken hours of which he had spent on the bridge. And he was weary with all the voyage behind him, 2 years and 4 months between home port and home port, 850 days by his log. Proper winter weather, he answered, after a silence. The town is undistinct. Oot will be Rhinon guid and hearty for the day. Captain MacElrath was a small man, just comfortably able to peep over the canvas dodger of the bridge. The pilot and third officer loomed above him, as did the man at the wheel, a bulky German, deserted from a warship, whom he had signed on in Rangoon. But his lack of inches made Captain MacElrath a no less able man. At least so the company reckoned, and so would he have reckoned could he have had access to the carefully and minutely compiled record of him filed away in the office archives. But the company had never given him a hint of its faith in him. It was not the way of the company, for the company went on the principle of never allowing an employee to think himself indispensable or even exceedingly useful, wherefore, while quick to censure, it never praised. What was Captain MacElrath, anyway, save a skipper, one skipper of the 80-odd skippers that commanded the company's 80-odd freighters on all the highways and byways of the sea? Beneath them, on the main deck, 2 Chinese stokers were carrying breakfast forward across the rusty iron plates that told their own grim story of weight and wash of sea. A sailor was taking down the lifeline that stretched from the forecastle, past the hatches and cargo winches, to the bridge deck ladder. A rough voyage, suggested the pilot. Aye, she was fair smoke in OT times, but not thought I minded thought so much as the low sin of time. I hate like Onathon, to lost time. So saying, Captain MacElrath turned and glanced aft, aloft and alow, and the pilot, following his gaze, saw the mute but convincing explanation of that loss of time. The smokestack, buff-colored underneath, was white with salt, while the whistle pipe glittered crystalline in the random sunlight that broke for the instant through a cloud rift. The port lifeboat was missing, its iron davits, twisted and wrenched, testifying to the mightiness of the blow that had been struck the old Tryapsic. The starboard davits were also empty. The shattered wreck of the lifeboat they had held lay on the fiddly beside the smashed engine room skylight, which was covered by a tarpaulin. Below, to starboard, on the bridge deck, the pilot saw the crushed messroom door, roughly bulkhead against the pounding seas. Abreast of it, on the smokestack guys, and being taken down by the boatswain and a sailor, hung the huge square of rope netting which had failed to break those seas of their force. Twice afore I mentioned thought door told the owners, said Captain MacElrath. But they said UT would do. There was bug seas thought time. They was uncreditable bug. And thought buggest one dud the domage. Oot fair carried away the door and laid UT flat on the mess table and smashed out the chief's room. He was a but sore about UT. It must have been a big un, the pilot remarked sympathetically. Aye, UT was thought. Thumbs was lively for a butt. Oot finished the mate. He was on the brudge with me, and I told hum to take a look to the wedges o number 1 hatch. She was talking water freely and I was no sure o number 1. I dudna like the look o UT, and I was fuggerin' maybe tol heave to tol the marn, when she took UT over abaft the brudge. My word, she was a bug one. We got a butt of UT ourselves on the brudge. I dudna miss the mate OT the first, what routine out chips and bulkheadin' thought Doran stretchin' the tarpaulin over the skylight. Then he was nowhere to be found. The men ot the Will said as he seen hum goin' down the ladder just afore she hut us. We looked for'ard, we looked tull hus room, I looked tull the engine room, and we looked along aft on the lower deck, and there he was, on both sides the cover to the steam pipe run none tull the after wunches. The pilot ejaculated an oath of amazement and horror. The skipper went on wearily, and on both sides the steam pipe uz well. I tell ye he was in two pieces, splut clean uz a herrin'. The sea must a caught hum on the upper brudge deck, carried hum clean across the fiddly, and banged hum head on tull the pipe cover. It sheared through hum like so much butter, down atween the eyes, and along the middle of hum, so that one leg and arm was fast tull the one piece of hum, and one leg and arm fast tull the other piece of hum. I tell ye ut was fair gruesome. We put hum together and rolled hum in canvas uz we pulled hum out. The pilot swore again. Oh, ut wasna onython tull greed about, Captain MacElrath assured him. 'Twas a guid ruddance. He was no a sailor, thought mate, fellow. He was only fut for a pugsty, and a dom puir apology for thought same. It is said that there are three kinds of Irish, Catholic, Protestant, and North of Ireland, and that the North of Ireland Irishman is a transplanted Scotchman. Captain MacElrath was a North of Ireland man, and, talking for much of the world like a Scotchman, nothing aroused his ire quicker than being mistaken for a Scotchman. Irish he stoutly was, and Irish he stoutly abided, though it was with a faint lip lift of scorn that he mentioned mere South of Ireland men, or even Orange men. Himself he was Presbyterian, while in his own community 5 men were all that ever mustered at a meeting in the Orange Men's Hall. His community was the island McGill, where 7,000 of his kind lived in such amity and sobriety that in the whole island there was but one policeman and never a public house at all. Captain MacElrath did not like the sea, and had never liked it. He wrung his livelihood from it, and that was all the sea was, the place where he worked, as the mill, the shop, and the counting house were the places where other men worked. Romance never sang to him her siren song, and adventure had never shouted in his sluggish blood. He lacked imagination. The wonders of the deep were without significance to him. Tornadoes, hurricanes, waterspouts, and tidal waves were so many obstacles to the way of a ship on the sea and of a master on the bridge, they were that to him, and nothing more. He had seen, and yet not seen, the many marvels and wonders of far lands. Under his eyelids burned the brazen glories of the tropic seas, or ached the bitter gales of the North Atlantic or far South Pacific, but his memory of them was of messroom doors stove in, of decks awash and hatches threatened, of undue coal consumption, of long passages, and of fresh paintwork spoiled by unexpected squalls of rain. I know my business, was the way he often put it, and beyond his business was all that he did not know, all that he had seen with the mortal eyes of him and yet that he never dreamed existed. That he knew his business his owners were convinced, or at 40 he would not have held command of the Tryapsic, 3,000 tons net register, with a cargo capacity of 9,000 tons and valued at £50,000. He had taken up seafaring through no love of it, but because it had been his destiny, because he had been the second son of his father instead of the first. Island McGill was only so large, and the land could support but a certain definite proportion of those that dwelt upon it. The balance, and a large balance it was driven to the sea to seek its bread. It had been so for generations. The eldest sons took the farms from their fathers, to the other sons remained the sea and its salt ploughing. So it was that Donald MacElrath, farmer's son and farm boy himself, had shifted from the soil he loved to the sea he hated and which it was his destiny to farm. And farmed it he had, for 20 years, shrewd, cool-headed, sober, industrious, and thrifty, rising from ship's boy and forecastle hand to mate and master of sailing ships and thence into steam, second officer, first, and master, from small command to larger, and at last to the bridge of the old Tryapsic, old, to be sure, but worth her £50,000 and still able to bear up in all seas, and weather her 9,000 tons of freight. From the bridge of the Tryapsic, the high place he had gained in the competition of men, he stared at Dublin harbour opening out, at the town obscured by the dark sky of the dreary wind-driven day, and at the tangled tracery of spars and rigging of the harbour shipping. Back from twice around the world he was, and from interminable junketings up and down on far stretches, homecoming to the wife he had not seen in 28 months, and to the child he had never seen and that was already walking and talking. He saw the watch below of stokers and trimmers bobbing out of the forecastle doors like rabbits from a warren and making their way aft over the rusty deck to the mustering of the port doctor. They were Chinese, with expressionless, sphinx-like faces, and they walked in peculiar shambling fashion, dragging their feet as if the clumsy brogans were too heavy for their lean shanks. He saw them and he did not see them, as he passed his hand beneath his visored cap and scratched reflectively his mop of sandy hair. For the scene before him was but the background in his brain for the vision of peace that was his, a vision that was his often during long nights on the bridge when the old Tryapsic wallowed on the vexed ocean floor, her decks awash, her rigging thrumming in the gale gusts or snow squalls or driving tropic rain. And the vision he saw was of farm and farmhouse and straw-thatched outbuildings, of children playing in the sun, and the good wife at the door, of lowing kine, and clucking fowls, and the stamp of horses in the stable, of his father's farm next to him, with, beyond, the woodless, rolling land and the hedged fields, neat and orderly, extending to the crest of the smooth, soft hills. It was his vision and his dream, his romance and adventure, the goal of all his effort, the high reward for the salt ploughing and the long, long furrows he ran up and down the whole world around in his farming of the sea. In simple taste and homely inclination this much-travelled map was more simple and homely than the veriest yokel. 71 years his father was, and had never slept a night out of his own bed in his own house on Island McGill. That was the life ideal, so Captain MacElrath considered, and he was prone to marvel that any man, not under compulsion, should leave a farm to go to sea. To this much-travelled man the whole world was as familiar as the village to the cobbler sitting in his shop. To Captain MacElrath the world was a village. In his mind's eye he saw its streets 1,000 leagues long, aye, and longer, turnings that doubled earth's stormiest headlands or were the way to quiet inland ponds, crossroads, taken one way, that led to flowerlands and summer seas, and that led the other way to bitter, ceaseless gales and the perilous bergs of the great west wind drift. And the cities, bright with lights, were as shops on these long streets, shops where business was transacted, where bunkers were replenished, cargoes taken or shifted, and orders received from the owners in London town to go elsewhere and beyond, ever along the long sea lanes, seeking new cargoes here, carrying new cargoes there, running freights wherever shillings and pence beckoned and underwriters did not forbid. But it was all a weariness to contemplate, and, save that he wrung from it his bread, it was without profit under the sun. The last goodbye to the wife had been at Cardiff, 28 months before, when he sailed for Valparaiso with coals, 9,000 tons and down to his marks. From Valparaiso he had gone to Australia, light, a matter of 6,000 miles on end with a stormy passage and running short of bunker coal. Coals again to Oregon, 7,000 miles, and nigh as many more with general cargo for Japan and China. Thence to Java, loading sugar for Marseilles, and back along the Mediterranean to the Black Sea, and on to Baltimore, down to her marks with chrome ore, buffeted by hurricanes, short again of bunker coal and calling at Bermuda to replenish. Then a time charter, Norfolk, Virginia, loading mysterious contraband coal and sailing for South Africa under orders of the mysterious German supercargo put on board by the charterers. On to Madagascar, steaming 4 knots by the supercargo's orders, and the suspicion forming that the Russian fleet might want the coal. Confusion and delays, long waits at sea, international complications, the whole world excited over the old Tryapsic and her cargo of contraband, and then on to Japan and the naval port of Sasebo. Back to Australia, another time charter and general merchandise picked up at Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide, and carried on to Mauritius, Lorenzo Marquez, Durban, Algoa Bay, and Cape Town. To Ceylon for orders, and from Ceylon to Rangoon to load rice for Rio Janeiro. Thence to Buenos Aires and loading maize for the United Kingdom or the continent, stopping at St. Vincent, to receive orders to proceed to Dublin. 2 years and 4 months, 850 days by the log, steaming up and down the 1,000-league-long sea lanes and back again to Dublin town. And he was well aweary. A little tug had laid hold of the Tryapsic, and with clang and clatter and shouted command, with engines half ahead, slow speed, or half astern, the battered old sea tramp was nudged and nosed and shouldered through the dock gates into Rings End Basin. Lines were flung ashore, fore and aft, and a midship spring got out. Already a small group of the happy shore-staying folk had clustered on the dock. "Ring off," Captain MacElrath commanded in his slow thick voice, and the third officer worked the lever of the engine-room telegraph. "Gangway out," called the second officer, and when this was accomplished, "That will do." It was the last task of all, gangway out. "That will do" was the dismissal. The voyage was ended, and the crew shambled eagerly forward across the rusty decks to where their sea bags were packed and ready for the shore. The taste of the land was strong in the men's mouths, and strong it was in the skipper's mouth as he muttered a gruff good day to the departing pilot, and himself went down to his cabin. Up the gangway were trooping the customs officers, the surveyor, the agent's clerk, and the stevedores. Quick work disposed of these and cleared his cabin, the agent waiting to take him to the office. "Did ye send word to the wife?" had been his greeting to the clerk. "Yes, a telegram, as soon as you were reported. She'll likely be comin' down on the Marnine train," the skipper had soliloquized, and gone inside to change his clothes and wash. He took a last glance about the room and at 2 photographs on the wall, one of the wife, the other of an infant, the child he had never seen. He stepped out into the cabin, with its paneled walls of cedar and maple, and with its long table that seated 10, and at which he had eaten by himself through all the weary time. No laughter and clatter and wordy argument of the mess room had been his. He had eaten silently, almost morosely, his silence emulated by the noiseless Asiatic who had served him. It came to him suddenly, the overwhelming realization of the loneliness of those 2 years and more. All his vexations and anxieties had been his own. He had shared them with no one. His 2 young officers were too young and flighty, the mate too stupid. There was no consulting with them. One tenant had shared the cabin with him, that tenant his responsibility. They had dined and supped together, walked the bridge together, and together they had bedded. "Och," he muttered to that grim companion, "I'm quit of you, and wool quit, for a wee." Ashore he passed the last of the seamen with their bags, and, at the agent's, with the usual delays, put through his ship business. When asked out by them to drink he took milk and soda. "I am no teetotaler," he explained, "but for the life o' me I can't abide beer or whisky." In the early afternoon, when he finished paying off his crew, he hurried to the private office where he had been told his wife was waiting. His eyes were for her first, though the temptation was great to have more than a hurried glimpse of the child in the chair beside her. He held her off from him after the long embrace, and looked into her face long and steadily, drinking in every feature of it and wondering that he could mark no changes of time. A warm man, his wife thought him, though had the opinion of his officers been asked it would have been, a harsh man and a bitter one. "Wool, Annie, how is ye?" he queried, and drew her to him again. And again he held her away from him, this wife of 10 years and of whom he knew so little. She was almost a stranger, more a stranger than his Chinese steward, and certainly far more a stranger than his own officers whom he had seen every day, day and day, for 850 days. Married 10 years, and in that time he had been with her 9 weeks, scarcely a honeymoon. Each time home had been a getting acquainted again with her. It was the fate of the men who went out to the salt ploughing. Little they knew of their wives and less of their children. There was his chief engineer, old, near-sighted Macpherson, who told the story of returning home to be locked out of his house by his 4-year kiddie that never had laid eyes on him before. "And thus you'll be the laddie," the skipper said, reaching out a hesitant hand to the child's cheek. But the boy drew away from him, sheltering against the mother's side. "Och," she cried, "and he doesna know his own father. Nor I hum. Heaven knows I could no way picked hum out of a crowd, though he'll be havin' your nose I'm thunkin'. And your own eyes, Donald. Look you to them. He's your own father, laddie. Kiss hum like the little mon ye are." But the child drew closer to her, his expression of fear and distrust growing stronger, and when the father attempted to take him in his arms he threatened to cry. The skipper straightened up, and to conceal the pang at his heart he drew out his watch and looked at it. "Oot's time to go, Annie," he said. "Thought train you'll be startin'. He was silent on the train at first, divided between watching the wife with the child going to sleep in her arms and looking out of the window at the tilled fields and green unforested hills vague and indistinct in the driving drizzle that had set in. They had the compartment to themselves. When the boy slept she laid him out on the seat and wrapped him warmly. And when the health of relatives and friends had been inquired after, and the gossip of Island McGill narrated, along with the weather and the price of land and crops, there was little left to talk about save themselves, and Captain MacElrath took up the tale brought home for the good wife from all his world's end wandering. But it was not a tale of marvels he told, nor of beautiful flower lands nor mysterious eastern cities. "What like is Java?" she asked once. "Full o' fever. Half the crew down with UT and blood'll work. Oot was quinine and quinine the whole blessed time. Each marnun 'twas quinine and gin for all hands on an empty stomach. And they who was no sick made UT out to be hoven, UT bad usee the rest." Another time she asked about Newcastle. "Coals and coal dust, thoughts all. No a nice suddy. I lost 2 chinks there, stokers the both of them. And the owners paid a fine toll the government of £100 each for them. We regret toll note, they rut me, I got the letter toll Oregon, we regret toll note the loss o, 2 Chinese members o, your crew o to Newcastle, and we recommend greater carefulness on the future. Greater carefulness. And I could no way been more careful. The chinks had £45 each Coleman told them in wages, and I was no way thunkin' they ud run. But thoughts their way, we regret toll note, we beg toll advise, we recommend, we canna understand, and the like o thought. Dom Ned cargo tank. And they would thunk I could drive her like a Lucania, and why out burnin' coals. There was thought propeller. I was after them a GUID while for UT. The old one was iron, thuck on the edges, and we couldna make our speed. And the new one was bronze, £900 UT cost, and then wantoin, there returns out o, UT, and me with a bod passage and low sin, time every day. We regret toll note your long passage from Valparaiso toll Sydney with an average daily run o, only 167. We had expected better results with the new propeller. You should a made an average daily run o, 216. And me on a winter passage, blowin' a Leuven gale half the time, with hurricane force in atween whiles, and hove to 6 days, with engines stopped and bunker coal run none short, and me with a mate thought stupid he could no pass a shup's light ot night why out Callan, me told the brooch. I rut and told em so. And then, our nautical advisor suggests you kept too far south, and we are lookin' for better results from thought propeller. Nautical advisor. Shore pilot. Oot was the regular latitude for a winter passage from Valparaiso toll Sydney. And when I come on toll Auckland short o, coal, after lettin' her druft 6 days with the fires out toll save the coal, and with only 20 tons in my bunkers, I was thunkin' oh the low sin oh time and the expense, and toll save the owners I took her on an out why out pilotage. Pilotage was no compulsory. And Yokohama, who should I meet but Captain Robinson o the Tryapsic. We got a talkin' about ports and places down Australia way, and first thing he says, speakin' o' Auckland, of course, Captain, you was never on Auckland? Yes, I says, I was on there very recent. Oh, ho, he says, very angry like, so you was the smart aleck thought fetched me thought letter from the owners, we note item of £15 for pilotage OT Auckland. A ship o' ours was untold Auckland recently and uncurred no such charge. We beg toll advise you thought we consider thus pilotage an unnecessary expense which should no be uncurred on the future. But did they say a word told me for the £15 I saved told them? No a word. They send a letter told Captain Robinson for no savin' them the £15, and told me, we note item of 2 guineas doctor's fee at Auckland for crew. Please explain thus unusual expenditure. Oot was 2 the chinks. I was thunkin' they had berry and thought was the y.o. sin done for the doctor. I buried the 2 of them OTC not a week after. But UT was, please explain thus unusual expenditure, and told Captain Robinson, we beg toll advise you thought we consider thus pilotage an unnecessary expense. Dudna I cable them from Newcastle, tellin' them the old tank was thought foul she needed dry dock. 7 months out dry dock, and the west coast the quickest place for Falun on the world. But freights was up, and they had a charter coals for Portland. The Arata, 10 the Waller line, left port the same day us, bound for Portland, and the old Tryapsic Magung, 6 knots, 7 OT the best. And UT was OT Comox, talkin' unbunker coal, I got the letter from the owners. The boss himself had signed UT, and OT the bottom he wrote on hus own bond, the Arata beat you by 4.5 days. Am disappointed. Disappointed. When I had cabled them from Newcastle. When she dry-docked OT Portland, there was whiskers on her a foot long, barnacles the size me fussed, oysters like young sauce plates. Oot took them 2 days afterward to clean the dock shells and muck. And, there was the motor them fire bars OT Newcastle. The firm ashore made them heavier than the engineer's specifications, and then forgot toll charge for the difference. OT the last moment, with me ashore gettin' me clearance, they come with the bill, toll error on fire bars, £6. They'd been told the ship and Macpherson had o.kdut. I said UT was strange and would no pay. Then you are Dutton the chief engineer, says they. I'm no Dutton, says I, but I canna see my way toll sign. Come with me toll the ship. The launch will cost ye not and UT you'll brung ye back. And we will see what Macpherson says. But they would no come. OT Portland I got the bill on a letter. I took no notice. OT Hong Kong I got a letter from the owners. The bill had been sent told them. I wrote them from Java explainin'. At Marseilles the owners wrote me, toll extra work on engine room, £6. The engineer has o.kdut, and you have no o.kdut. Are you Dutton the engineer's honesty? I wrote and told them I was no Dutton his honesty, thought the bill was for extra weight fire bars, and thought UT was okay. Did they pay UT? They no dud. They must investigate. And some clerk on the office took sick, and the bill was lost. And there was more letters. I got letters from the owners and the firm toll error on fire bars, £6, OT Baltimore, OT Delagoa Bay, OT Moji, OT Rangoon, OT Rio, and OT Montevideo. Oot Uzi no settled yet. I tell ye, Annie, the owners are hard toll please. He communed with himself for a moment, and then muttered indignantly, toll error on fire bars, £6. Hove heard of Jamie, his wife asked in the pause. Captain MacElrath shook his head. He was washed off the poop with 3 seamen. Whereabouts? Off the Horn. 'Twas on the Thornsby. They would be runnin' homeward bound. Aye, she nodded. We only got the word 3 days gone. His wife is greetin' like told die. A good lad, Jamie, he commented, but a stiff one ot carrying on. I mind me when we was mates together on the Avian. And so Jamie's gone. Again a pause fell, to be broken by the wife. And ye will know a heard o' the Bankshire. MacDougall lost her in Magellan Straits. 'Twas only yesterday UT was in the paper. A cruel place, the Magellan Straits, he said. Dudna thought Domned Matefellow nigh put me ashore twice on the one passage through. He was a idiot, a lunatic. I wouldna have hum on the Brudge a munit. Coman, tull narrow reach, thuck weather, with snow squalls, me on the chart room, Dudna I gov hum the changed course. Southeast by east, I told hum. Southeast by east, sir, says he. 15 minutes after I comes on tull the Brudge. Funny, says thought mate fellow, I'm no rememberin' ony islands on the mouth o' narrow reach. I took one look o' to the islands and yells, put your will hard a starboard, tull the mon o' to the wheel. And ye should a seen the old Tryapsic turnin', the sharpest circle she ever turned. I waited for the snow tull clear, and there was narrow reach, nice use ye please, tull the east arden, the islands on the mouth o' false bay tull the south ard. What course was ye steerin'? I says tull the mon o' to the wheel. South by east, sir, says he. I looked tull the mate fellow. What could I say? I was thought raw if I could a cold hum. 4 points difference. 5 minutes more and the old Tryapsic would a been finished. And was UT no the same when we cleared the straits tull the east ard? 4 hours would a seen us guid and clear. I was 40 hours then on the Brudge. I gov the mate his course, and the Baron, oh, the Askthar light astern. Don't let her bear more tull the north ard than west by north, I said tull hum, and ye will be all right. And I went below and turned on. But I couldna sleep for worryin'. After 40 hours on the Brudge, what was 4 hours more? I thought. And for them 4 hours will ye be lettin' the mate loss her on ye? No, I says to myself. And with thought I got up, had a washin', a cup o' coffee, and went tull the Brudge. I took one look o' to the Baron o' Askthar light. 'Twas nor'west by west, and the old Tryapsic down on the shoals. He was a idiot, thought mate fellow. Ye could look overside and see the discoloration of the water. 'Twas a close call for the old Tryapsic I'm tellin' ye. Twice on 30 hours he'd a had her ashore ufut had no been for me. Captain MacElrath fell to gazing at the sleeping child with mild wonder in his small blue eyes, and his wife sought to divert him from his woes. Ye remember Jummy MacCall? She asked. Ye went tull school with hus 2 boys. Old Jummy MacCall thought hus the farm beyond Dr. Haythorn's place. Oh, aye, and what oh, hum. Usie he dead? No, but he was after askin' your father, when he sailed last time for Valparaiso, uf ye'd been there afore. And, when your father says no, then Jummy says, and how will he be no one at tull find hus way? And, with thought your father says, very simple utuz, Jummy. Supposin' you was goin' tull the mainland tull a mon who loved Belfast. Belfast usie a bug suddy, Jummy, and how would ye be fin done, your way? By way oh, me tongue, says Jummy, I'd be askin' the folk I met. I told ye UT was simple, says your father. Oots the very same way my Donald finds the road tull Valparaiso. He asks every shup he meets upon the sea tull ot last he meets with a shup thought's been tull Valparaiso, and the captain o thought shup tells hum the way. And Jummy scratches hus head and says he understands and thought oots a very simple matter after all. The skipper chuckled at the joke, and his tired blue eyes were merry for the moment. He was a thun chap, thought mate fellow, as thun as you and me put together, he remarked after a time, a slight twinkle in his eye of appreciation of the bull. But the twinkle quickly disappeared and the blue eyes took on a bleak and wintry look. What did he do ot Valparaiso but land 600 fathom chain cable and take never a receipt from the lighterman. I was gettin' my clearance ot the time. When we got Tull Sea, I found he had no receipt for the cable. And ye no took a receipt for ut, says I. No, says he. Wasna ut goin' direct told the agents. How long ha ye been goin' Tull Sea, says I, not told be knowin' the mate's duty uz told deliver no cargo without receipt for same. And on the west coast ot thought. What's Tull stop the lighterman from stealin' a few lengths ut. And ut come out uz I said. 600 went over the side, but 495 was all the agents received. The lighterman swore ut was all he received from the mate, 495 fathom. I got a letter from the owners ot Portland. They no blamed the mate for ut, but me, and me ashore ot the time on shup's business. I could no be in the two places ot the one time. And the letters from the owners and the agents uz still Coleman told me. Thought mate fellow was no a proper sailor, and no a mon toll work for owners. Dudna he want toll break me with the Board of Trade for bein' below my marks. He said as much told the boss en. And he told me told my face homeward bound thought I'd been half an inch under my marks. 'Twas at Portland, loadin' cargo on fresh water and goin' toll Comox toll load bunker coal on salt water. I tell ye, Annie, ut takes close fuggerin', and I was half an inch under the load line when the bunker coal was on. But I'm no tellin' any other body but you. And thought mate fellow untendin' toll report me toll the Board o' Trade, only for thought he saw fut toll be sliced on 2 pieces on the steam pipe cover. He was a fool. After loadin' ot Portland I had toll take on 60 tons o coal toll last me toll Comox. The charges for lighterin' was heavy, and no room ot the coal dock. A French bark was lyin' alongside the dock and I spoke toll the captain, askin' what he would charge when work for the day was done, toll haul clear for a couple hours and let me on $20, said he. Oot was savin' money on lighters told the owner, and I gave ut toll hum. And thought night, after dark, I hauled on and took on the coal. Then I started toll go out on the stream and drop anchor, under me own steam, of course. We had toll go out stern first, and somethin' went wrong with the reversin' gear. Old McPherson said he could work ut by hand, but very slow ot thought. And I said, all right. We started. The pilot was on board. The tide was ebbin' stuffly, and right abreast and but below was a shup lyin' with a lighter on each side. I saw the shups ridin' lights, but never a light on the lighters. Oot was close quarters to shuft a bug vessel onder steam, with McPherson workin' the reversin' gear by Honduras. We had to come close down upon the shup afore I could go ahead and clear the shups on the dock ends. And we struck the lighter stern on, just uz I rung toll McPherson half ahead. What was thought, says the pilot, when we struck the lighter? I dunna know, says I, and I'm wonderin'. The pilot was no keen, ye see, toll hus job. I went on toll a guid place and dropped anchor, and ut would all been well but for thought domned idiot mate. We smashed thought lighter, says he, Coleman up the ladder toll the brudge, and the pilot standin' there with his ears cocked toll here. What lighter, says I. Thought lighter alongside the shup, says the mate. I dudna see no lighter, says I, and with thought I steps on hus fut guid and hard. After the pilot was gone I says told the mate, you dunna know anythun, old mon, for heaven's sake keep your mouth shut. But ye dud smash thought lighter, dudn't ye, says he. We dud, says I, boots know your business told be tellin' the pilot, though, mind ye, I'm no admuttin', there was only lighter. And next marnun, just I'm after dressin', the steward says, "Amon tul see, sir." "Fetch Haman," says I. And on he come. "Sat down," says I. And he sat down. He was the owner of the lighter, and when he had told hus story, I says, "I dudna see ony lighter." "What, mon?" says he. "No see a 200-ton lighter, bug as a house, alongside thought shup." "I was goin' by the shup's lights," says I, "and I dudna touch the shup, thought I know." "But ye dud touch the lighter," says he. "Ye smashed her. There's $1,000 domage done, and I'll see ye pay for UT. "Look here, muster," says I, "when I'm shuftin' a shup ot night I follow the law, and the law dustunkly says I must regulate me actions by the lights o' the shuppin'. Your lighter never had no ridin' light, nor did I look for ony lighter woothout lights tol show UT. The mate says," he beguns. "Down the mate," says I, "did your lighter hov a ridin' light?" "No, UT did not," says he, "but UT was a clear night with the moon a showin' dot." "Ye seem tol know your business," says I, "but let me tell ye thought I know my business uz well, and thought I'm no a lookin' for lighters woothout lights. Uf ye thunk ye hov a case, go ahead. The steward will show ye out. Guid day." And thought was the end o' UT. But UT will show ye what a queer fellow thought mate was. I call UT a blessin', for all masters thought he was sliced on two on thought steampipe cover. He had a pull on the office and thought was the why he was kept on. "The Weckley farm will soon be for sale, so the agents be tellin' me," his wife remarked, slyly watching what effect her announcement would have upon him. His eyes flashed eagerly on the instant, and he straightened up as might a man about to engage in some agreeable task. It was the farm of his vision, adjoining his father's, and her own people farmed not a mile away. "We will be buoyant UT, he said, "though we will be no tellin' a soul of UT ontolutes bought and the money paid down. I've savin' considerable these days, though pickins usually know what they used to be, and we hov a tidy nest egg laid by. I will see the father and hove the money ready tol hus hand, so uf I'm otc he can buy whenever the land offers." He rubbed the frosted moisture from the inside of the window and peered out at the pouring rain, through which he could discern nothing. "When I was a young man I used told be afeard thought the owners would guv me the sack. Stull afeard I am of the sack. But once thought farm is mine I will no be afeard ony longer. Oot's a queer job thus see farmin'. Me manage in on all season, weather and perils the deepest shup worth £50,000, with cargoes ot times worth 50,000 more, 100,000 pounds, $500,000 usually the Yankees say, and me with all the responsibility gettin' a screw £20 a month. What mon ashore, manage in a business worth 100,000 pounds will be gettin' usually small a screw usually 20 pounds. And with such masters usually a captain serves, the owners, the underwriters, and the board o' trade, all poolin' and wantoin' different things, the owners wantoin' quick passages and dom the rusk, the underwriters wantoin' safe passages and dom the delay, and the board o' trade wantoin' cautious passages and caution always mayin' delay. 3 different masters, and all 3 able and woolin' to break ye uf ye don't serve their different whooshes. He felt the train slackening speed, and peered again through the misty window. He stood up, buttoned his overcoat, turned up the collar, and awkwardly gathered the child, still asleep, in his arms. "I will see the father," he said, "and hov the money ready tol hus hand so uf I'm otc when the land offers he will no must the chance tol buy. And then the owners can guv me the sack uzy soon uzy they like. Oot will be all night and I will be with you, Annie, and the sea can go tol hell." Happiness was in both their faces at the prospect, and for a moment both saw the same vision of peace. Annie leaned toward him, and as the train stopped they kissed each other across the sleeping child.